On this episode, we talk about collaboration, support systems, what it takes to be a good recruiter versus what it takes to be a good traveler. Atlas All Access starts now. Adam?
Welcome back.
Yep. Chris Madrigal, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to have you guys with us.
Welcome.
It's nice to be with you, buddy.
Look at that. So for those of you that don't know, Chris and Adam started on the same day, what?
4.5 years ago.
What? 4.5 years ago
Yep.
already?
It's been a while.
Jeez. So they have grown up together in the industry.
World.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so when I asked for some topics a couple of days ago on, what's happening right now? What can we talk about on Atlas All Access that would give you some more insight? Maybe that isn't just like day-to-day normal stuff. And Chris suggested I'll read what he sent because I think this is great, and we can delve into it just a little bit more. He sent what it means to be a good traveler when you show up to the contract. I think about being flexible, having patience, understanding not all facilities do things the right way, and maybe discussing how to handle those situations. We can reiterate expectations of the hospitals that they need help and they're looking for nurses to come in and help. So what does helping include? What are those expectations? And I thought, let's take it a step further. Not only what are those expectations on the traveler side, but then what are the traveler's expectations of their recruiter or a recruiter that they stay with?
Sure.
Oh, and I think maybe your topic, let's start. So let's hit that from both sides.
Yeah, I just think that, we've seen a lot of changes. We haven't been in the industry too long, but
Sure.
I think with technology and information and social media, everything is just ramped up and has moved really fast. And so collaboration and partnership means a lot. It means a lot for us internally, how we deal with each other. It obviously means a ton with how we relate to our nurses and how our nurses feel or relate to us. But I think as far as the hospital, I just felt like now's an appropriate time to just state the obvious that so many of the wonderful things about travel is that it's not what it is in their home hospital. And that could be a positive, a negative. It could just be just a condition of familiarity that I'm bored, we do it, what does somebody else do it like that? And I just felt like one of the obvious things is that as a traveler, number one, you're coming in there to help the hospital. So in a way, you are a guest, you are a stranger, and more than just the patient care, there's going to be cultural differences, just how people speak, how that hospital may do it. You could be coming from a hospital that has all the accolades and awards and you think your way is the right way, but there has to be a time where I was talking to Adam about this before we came on, is that just to be humble and to allow yourself an opportunity not to just get the lay of the land as far as the city, but also in the facility, and allow that facility to for you to understand some of those nuances. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of nurses mean well, but they may go to a facility and without even them intending, they may not be as open or as flexible as they think they are.
Sure.
And sometimes some of the challenges that I hear, it comes down to just communication.
Yeah, and I think a big word on there is expectations. On there, a lot of travelers have an expectation that it's going to be rosy and it's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. But I also think you have to understand where the hospital first, why they have a need, why the need is there, that they're coming. It might already be a hostile environment. Mm-hmm. Coming in mm-hmm. because they've been so short-staffed. They didn't have a good manager running the unit, and so people
right.
left, and that's why they're bringing travelers in. Mm-hmm. You could have a really great situation where 3 people went on maternity leave. They have a cohesive group that works together well, and you're just coming in to fill in that spot why that young lady goes off on maternity leave. Mm-hmm. So it's having realistic expectations of what you're going to walk into. Mm-hmm. It may be as good as the first assignment you went to, it may be the worst assignment, but having those expectations of, I'm going to go in, I'm going to smile, I'm going to ask them why they need help and how my help can be best used on there. And I think you'll have a better time on your assignment if you look at the expectations from everybody from the outside in and how you can best help out.
Mm-hmm. So then from the other side then, then what does, from your point of view or the nurses that you've talked to, what's the expectation of your recruiter in that same scenario?
I think just being transparent. We talk about that a lot here, but I think communication. And true communication is not sound and words. It's actually being truthful with what your concerns are. And
It isn't just the texting or
like, hey, good job.
the phone call.
It's really about addressing it. And for recruiters, there's a challenge sometimes of, I don't want to put someone off. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I don't want to come off as abrasive. But sometimes you're just like, hey, and then let me step back a little bit. It also is about encouragement and just listening to a nurse and understanding and also pulling resources from your organization that I would say that my nurses expect me to answer any questions they have and to provide information as far as the unit, kind of just basic things, like as far as, have I had travelers before? What has their experiences have been? Because if you go on social media, it's all over the place. Sure. And so you never really know. And so I think just being aware and just being a good listener really is the start of what I think the expectation of a recruiter is. And I'm not talking about the basic, superficial stuff as far as job, shift, pay. All that's already been taken. What I'm talking about are some of those feelings or thoughts or concerns of, am I going to be successful? Or even after, number one, checking in on the first day. Hey, good luck today. I look forward to hearing how your first week goes. And then a lot of times I'll sit back for a week or two and then I'll check in because I want that nurse to be able to just kind of get a feel. And it's amazing that maybe that first week or two you're like, I don't know, this looks sketchy, or it could be like, this is great. But inevitably, once things settle down, they get into the unit, they've had a chance to show that facility what they're about. I think that's where that communication from the recruiter is like, I'm still here with you. I do care about you. But at the same time, I also care about our hospital business partners.
Right.
And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, frustrations and all these other things that they do have an indirect effect on patient care, because if a nurse is not focused on the patient, then there's all these other distractions. So I think it's just, like you said, you show up and to understand you're there for a need, and that's great if they're a highly sophisticated seasonal hospital that knows everyone's coming down to the south for fun and sun, or if you're in a small facility that's has changeover, the system. Like, I just think when you say helping, sometimes helping is more of a mental state of mind. Like, if I know that there's an issue, you can help that by not stating the obvious. I'm sure that most people, nurses aside, I just think people in general kind of know what their issues are or know what the situation is. A lot of times, if you could just hold the company line and just be professional and just be one less person that's piling on and maybe using their time to be more productive, they're going to find out that even the hardest nut can kind of soften,
True.
Yeah, and I think expectations include, like you said, following up of some sort. How's your first week? Maybe it might be a couple times that first week that you're following up. It might be once every couple weeks from that point in time forward. But especially on the first one, hey, are you putting your time in at the hospital? Are you getting your time into our online system? Are you having any issues with those? Are you struggling with anything? How's your housing? Where are you staying? What are you, have you planned some adventures yet? Encouragement for them to have a good assignment and experience where they're at around the country. And I that's the part that I love, is living vicariously through my travelers of what they get to do.
Right.
And hey, post pictures, show your family you're having a good time, show your friends, encourage them to get out there and do the same thing as well. So I think that's super important.
I think that, and that's something that you both had brought up when we first started talking about this, was having that support system in place, right? And it's not just the family and friends, but it is you as a recruiter being that part of that support system. That's part of your role, right? I mean, as they go down this journey, as they build this career, you're an integral piece. The recruiter's an integral piece of that as part of their support system.
Yep. And we've talked about it a million times, like, how can you be friends with your recruiter? I think it's just the way we are and the way we communicate with the travelers. it's gonna happen. Like, these people end up being my friends. They end up being part of my Atlas family. My success is only as good as their success out there.
Right.
And I just don't see how people can't become friends with those people.
Apparently, there's a huge industry or people out there that don't know anything about their nurses. And when we talk about relationship and progress within this industry, I agree. That is crazy. Like, most people won't even drive across town to try a restaurant alone, right? But we have these nurses courageously jumping in their car, going to a facility they've never been, in a state maybe they've never been, and I just think it's odd. Like, how would you do that without at least having familiarity and friendship, or knowing, like, hey, if I get a flat tire or if something breaks my windshield, yeah, you have your insurance, but I'm always telling my travelers, like, I know, you're an adult and you save lives, and I get that. But that doesn't mean I don't want you checking in, because I just want to make sure you're all right.
Right.
And I think that's one of those things where it's just relational. And just like you and I, a lot of times we just want to be heard. A lot of times, especially in the pace of hospitals and everything that they're tasked to do, from patient care to charting to just getting along with other travelers or even the staff, or understanding the vernacular, a lot of times there's something special about somebody just genuinely listening.
Yep.
And saying, you know what, I care. Whatever the situation is, there's a solution, and we're going to talk about it. But again, that's that communication. We're going to be honest, and we're going to say, like, this, these are the steps to remedy, or whatever that the situation is.
Yep.
Right.
No doubt.
Yeah. And I want to key on one word that you said at the very, very beginning that I think is important on both sides, and it's being humble. I think that's been the key to both of your success through your days at Atlas. And I think it's having met a lot of both of your nurses, like quite a few of them over the years, you are who you recruit. And that is just an absolute true statement. I honestly believe that after 15 years of doing this, I believe that if you don't stay humble, if you don't check yourself, and then you're not going to be successful.
I think in the recruiter travel relationship, there is going to be some hostility. There's going to be times where you feel you were wronged, the traveler feels they were wronged, and you have to step back and be humble. You really have to step back and say, hey, this is a hard industry to be in. This is a hard thing to do. And, even as a recruiter, we love what we do, but it's some days you have to be humble. You have to check yourself, step away from the situation, and just be humble that you get to be in that situation, and then figure out a plan to get you out of whatever that mess is.
Correct. Because we a lot of times, I guess we could say this, we're paying for the mistakes of other people. And so that's where that communication, I also understand that you need that time component to prove yourself. So, I can say all the things I want to say, which is probably no different than anybody else hustling and on the grind. But I think you'll find that if you do text or call me on the weekend or even a holiday, that I get it. Like, I'll never forget that's why we're here. And I think we're very cool about saying that. Like, we only exist because of travelers, because of nurses, because of the needs of hospitals for staffing. And anything that we do, if it's not about the benefit for that nurse, then we don't typically mess with it.
You shouldn't do it.
We're not interested in that.
You shouldn't do it in the first place.
We're interested in our nurses' experiences on the road, and I'm very proud of a nurse that can say, like, you know what, I may not always have the best job, I may not have always this, but I love it when my nurse is like, hey, but Chris is solid. Like, if it's not now, then it's later. And I think that's to flip the script now. I think that's also what nurses need to have. They also need to be very humble. And I think this is an industry that, your 15 minutes of fame could be 5 years of fame on social media. And you could get a real vibe of, of an entitlement and this and that. But at the end of the day, it's like that hospital or that manager or that patient, They don't care whether this is your second contract or your 15th, or you wrote a book or you didn't write a book.
Right.
They just care of how are you treating that person in this moment at that time.
At that very time, right?
Yep.
At that minute, and how you treat that family, and how how it all relates to the patient care in the end.
Yep.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, fellas, it was good to catch up.
Very good.
5 years in October. It's like we're a special couple. We're gonna have an anniversary. October 30th. Is that what it is?
What is the 5 year? Is that like
think
is that
it's-
like
I think it's
paper or what is?
It was
let's
like
see.
$5,000.
No,
It was a trip to Disneyland.
I can assure you, it's not a trip.
That's not gonna make the edit.
5-year anniversary wood. So there you go. You have to buy some
Mahogany.
There we go.
Will you give me one of those wood watches you have?
Oh.
That was a gift from Jenny J. I'll see what I can do.
All right, Chris,
All right.
Adam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yep.
Have a great
Yep.
week.
All right, we'll see you next week.